Hey, what's up? I'm Rob Barrington. I'm a United States Bridge Pro and teacher. And my job, as I see it, is to promote the game of bridge to the world. And I do that through my YouTube channel. I have about 3.5 million views so far on the YouTube channel and about 13,000 subscribers. And we're trying to create a new world of bridge players and make the pie as big as we possibly can for this wonderful game of ours.
Do you think you're attracting new players, or do you think you're attracting people who already were playing bridge?
I think there's a fair mix of both. New players is difficult because you really need that beginner content, and I'm starting to do a lot more of that, because not only is that the type of video that gets the most views online, because a lot of people are interested in learning the game from a basic level, but also you can catch people that like cards and want to try something different. A lot of the people that are viewing the channel are people that have played bridge before and maybe want to learn a bit more, or they haven't played in a while and they're getting back into it. And also just all the online players are really used to kind of learning in that way, and it's an easy win for them to kind of come in and get some information from myself and whoever else we host on the channel.
Do you think the ones that are learning online are moving then into the clubs, or what percentage?
After the pandemic, it's more, I think there are some people that are coming to the clubs, and honestly there are a lot of people coming to the tournaments, especially the nationals, for their first time. My fellow YouTuber Gavin Wolpert, who's a good friend of mine, we do a show together. We have people coming up to us saying, this is our first nationals, we're here because of you. So the actual swell of players that have played the game and are learning are more motivated to get out there. And I think the more we keep doing this, the better results we can have with that.
So how did you start in bridge?
My father taught me how to play bridge. He owned a bridge club in snowy Syracuse, New York, so there's not a lot to do there in the winter other than sit down and play cards. So I became a serious addict from the age of about 9 to about 16. And then I took a divergent path. I stopped playing bridge, maybe played once a year, until 20 years later when I moved to New York City and took the game up again. So at that point, I thought I was a pretty good bridge player, and then I moved in with some of the best players in America and realized I was terrible. But got to learn a lot from them, and my passion is teaching and introducing people to the game, and I just love that. That's the best part of my day. So from a bridge pro perspective, I can kind of dip my feet into all of the areas, playing and teaching, but my favorite is teaching, and I get the most out of it.
So people always say, oh, we've got to get young people into bridge. We have to get schools into bridge.
Yeah.
How have you found that experience in America?
Difficult. Very difficult, but it's a challenge that's worth accepting, especially from a marketing perspective. It's a very difficult problem, because when you talk about bridge, people just put a picture in their mind of some older people around a table, having a cocktail and being serious about the game. But really, there's a great opportunity if we can get into the schools, and especially universities, and the whole point is just to expose them to the game. And if they take to it, great, and if they don't, they're aware of it now, and maybe later on in life they come back to it. And I think it's a huge win if we can get people of that age into the game. If we can get them to understand it and get rewarded by it as quickly as possible, and maybe we can make this work again.
Do you remember when Bill Gates and Warren Buffett put $1 million into it?
I do.
What happened to that?
I don't even know what happened to that. I don't know what the result of that was. I just remember hearing something about it, but it was a time where I wasn't actually in the bridge world, I don't think.
Okay. So in Australia, most of our learning is done in clubs. The clubs have teachers and that, but it strikes me from reading all the ACBL stuff and the promotions they have, that there's a lot more personal teaching of bridge in America and then moving them into clubs. Any thoughts on that conversation?
It's interesting. It's like a tale of two worlds, basically, pre-pandemic and post. It was primarily taught in small bridge clubs all across the country, which is great, but there's also an issue with that to some degree, because you have disparate teaching methods and information depending on the type of teacher you have and where you live. I would love to have a centralized kind of method of teaching where we can get the same information out to people in a really direct and hopefully easily understandable way. And now we can kind of have other teachers just playing off of that sort of information. And I don't know about teaching in Australia, but some teachers do a great job, especially at the beginner level, but when we get up in levels, it becomes a lot harder to find a good teacher in those ways, and a more centralized approach could really help that, I think.
Because of the ageing population, particularly with Bridge now, average age 73, 74 of club members, a lot of the teachers are starting to say, I've done my bit, same with club administrators, etc. It's hard to get a younger generation to come through and to replace that.
And it takes a lot of work and unfortunately some funding really to get this to that level, because you know when a couple of kids walk into a club filled with maybe a certain clientele, they might not think that's a place for them. But I think with a good push, and there's a couple of great organizations doing it right now. BridgeWiz in the States, I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yes.
They're doing something with grade schools. I would love to get into universities, especially in an intercollegiate sort of way. In the States, our colleges, our college sports especially, are big money businesses. And we have something called Title IX, which is really interesting for Bridge because it is a cross-gender sport, right? You can play in the open team as a male or female, anything you want. If we can get people interested in that, and also universities interested in that as a way to compete and have a different sport that's catered to both of the genders, it could be a win for us. We just need people out there kind of making these pitches and getting into those places. And honestly, we need a little bit of luck, I believe, to get this rolling.
I looked at your website and I saw that you and Gavin have got a whole lot of lessons, etc. there,
Yes.
right, for people and to get better at Bridge. But what do you think is the most important element at the start in getting them to play?
I think it's just getting the cards on the table as quickly as possible and giving them decisions, and also giving people little pieces of success at every moment possible. We had a conversation earlier, you and I, about this, where when we sit down and we play, it takes a while for them to even get into a point where they're earning a master point. If we have a way for them to compete right away, where they're getting, hey, you know, you have 5 of these, or you're at this level now, very quickly you'll see people kind of come back because they have something to achieve. And the quicker we can get them into that mode, and also the faster they get, the quicker they get into that mode and the more they play, the better they become and the more hooked they get. As you know, anyone that plays Bridge, once it snaps for you, you cannot get enough of the game. We just need that snap to happen a lot more quickly than it has happened in the past.
So, have you ever tried Bridge in a Day, for example?
I haven't tried Bridge in a Day, but I have seen Patty Tucker do it, and it is an amazing thing. My new program is going to be 5 videos to basic Bridge, so something like that. And anybody that's doing something of this way to kind of get people in quickly is doing an amazing job for Bridge. And the better we can be at getting those people into the door and staying in at least and coming back, the better we all are.
One of the things that I preach in my columns, in our Bridge columns, etc., magazines, is that if we take the movie industry, they have a similar problem to us, right? And that is because of COVID, people got very used to being at home.
Yep,
right?
Streaming.
They're streaming, they're in their pajamas, they've got drink, food, all going on at the same time, right? So one of the big consulting firms in the world, and I deal in the media, you know, they looked at the movie theatres and say, you have to provide a premium service. You have to give people a reason to get out of home and go to a club, right? Now,
Bridge has a built-in premium service. It's a social game. And the thing that people are missing that are playing just at home, they're missing that interaction with the people that they know and love at their club. So that is the win for me of all time. If people are just playing online and they get to the club, they might be a little nervous at first. They're out there maybe making mistakes in public for the first time. However, that sense of community and picking people up is the greatest part of every Bridge club I've ever been in. And I don't know if you're familiar with Andrew Rosenthal. He's an
Yes.
American player. He and I just both sat down at some point in a club in New York City, and we both said we love Bridge clubs. We like to go there. We spend our time there because the people we love are there, the people we have fun with are there. And that is the thing that really, if we can get people back into it, it's a massive win because of just the way the game is built to be played. And the reason it's so much fun is we're all in this together as one big happy team.
in the club that I'm president of, and when I took over running it, I tried to introduce a premium service like making sure the ladies' toilets have paper towels in them, preferably some flowers, even perhaps a perfume bottle.
I see.
And then for Anzac Day, which is our Memorial Day for the services, etc., I provided them with things that they called Anzac biscuits that our soldiers at Gallipoli ate in the trenches, etc. On Valentine's Day, a chocolate for every person in the club.
I love it.
And for Australia Day, I had a cook make-up little mini lamingtons with cream in them.
My dad used to make pancake breakfast on Sunday mornings. It was the most popular game every week because his pancakes were really good, first of all, but also that sense of community was there. It's like, hey, let's go have some breakfast and play some bridge. And that sort of thing is missing in today's game, especially with the clubs kind of struggling to bring people back, which for me it's difficult because everyone has their own risk threshold for sure. But so many of the people that kind of had this, I don't want to go back, and went back, are happier that they're back, because it's what they were missing, that social interaction with their people that they can be in front of, they can have lunch with, and they can talk about their day with as well.
You know, I know Paul Marsden very well, who's sold over 500,000 bridge books, etc., played in his club for a long time. He and I have one strong disagreement, and that is for youth bridge. And I tell you where I read this was about one of your American youth players saying it. If you want to get youth to play bridge, you need pizza and cake.
Yeah, for sure.
In our case, probably pizza and Coke.
Yeah, yeah, and just a lot of kids. Really, if you get them together, any room full of kids might be you might be tearing your hair out like it's going to be crazy, but really, they'll have their own fun. You put them on the path, you get them competing. That's the big thing. The quicker you can compete, the more people are drawn to it, especially those people with that competitive fire that become the lifelong bridge player for sure.
Okay, so the other area where we have a problem at the moment is that our conventions, our big congresses around the world are down something like 20 to 25%
for sure
on the pre-COVID situation. What do we do to rectify that?
Yeah, I think we're starting to see a little bit of comeback, especially from the types of people that are attending their first nationals, but it's not quite as much as we need it to be at this point. It's hard. The nationals do a really good job, but the one thing they maybe can do a little better is bringing more of these groups of younger players in. Sometimes you'll see like a junior event, things like that, but like 1 or 2 days. You know, get it in there for a whole week. Get people instructing players at that moment. Every nationals in the States or wherever it is, every big tournament should have an instructional component where people can actually come in and say, hey, my husband or wife is playing bridge. Can I take a little class here and learn it? Like have a bunch of bridge in the days, have different ways where people can get in, maybe even have like a mini bridge tournament or something like that, where a non-bridge player can feel like they're part of it, and maybe we can do some conversion. The big thing is giving as many people an outlet to play cards first, and then create bridge players from there. Because anybody that's been to any card game is and they enjoy it are just going to have a lifelong fun activity to be part of.
So what advice would you give to the ACBL or in Australia to the Australian Bridge Federation on how we get these younger people into bridge? I mean, do you advertise at all for your on?
YouTube is my advertising vehicle, actually. So I advertise through that, just kind of my own. Like my website has small lessons you can buy for $5 or $10, and what I want is I want to make my products or all bridge products as low cost as possible, because people don't have a lot of money to throw around for a lesson that they may never use. So the better we can be at kind of not overly monetizing, especially the beginner portions of the game, the better off we're all going to be. But really the tough thing with children is the competitive landscape. You have so many things competing. Regular sports, video games, television, movies, all of this. And all of those give kind of immediate feedback to the young student. We can find a way and a bunch of programs where not only can they see success early, they can make progress early, they can be rewarded. If we gamify bridge, we can kind of dip into that market, I think, better than we've ever been able to do it. It's a real difficult problem, though, and it's going to take a lot of people working in that method of just marketing the game to that demographic.
I was just at what you would call a regional competition, I think, for you. It has national ratings, etc. for us. And we had, I think, about 80 odd tables playing in it, right? And we were on a race course. And up above us, right along the whole of the grandstands, were young people at the same idea, but they were at an e-games.
I bet you it was wild, right?
Thousands.
Screaming.
And not so young either. You know, when I say young, I mean like teenagers.
Tweens,
but into their 20s and 30s, right?
For sure.
So they had all of that. They had theatres, several different theatres where people could go and sit and cheer and yell and abuse.
$1 business already.
When their hero got shot or something like that, right? They had actual retailers there selling them product, right?
We were talking about this. Which gets into the Olympics first? Is it bridge or is it e-gaming? And I don't know. It's a close one, right? Because that is becoming a mind sport / regular sport, and it's really fascinating. But we can learn from them. We can learn from them in a lot of meaningful ways, especially just giving people a chance to take away time from a screen. And I think even younger folks, my nephew, for example, looks to get away from screen time, right? Because he programs, he does all this stuff in front of the screen. He doesn't want to be looking at a screen for the rest of the day. He is one of the types of people we could market to, like, hey, take a little time off, put some cards in your hand, and work your brain. The other part of the demographic that's really interesting is kind of the middle-aged demographic, which is the one we've kind of always hammered so hard in the
50
States.
plus sort of thing, 45 plus.
But there needs to be a couple of good studies out there that just tell people the benefits of bridge. And I'm not a doctor, but empirically I can understand that a lot of the people I see at the Bridge Club that are 90 plus, maybe they can't move very well, but my goodness, they're sharp as a tack. And that's because they've been using their brain in a productive way for so long that it's just benefited them. And,
this e-games competition, they even had a masseur there with a table. Now,
looks like a poker tournament.
That's right out of the poker business, isn't it? Because they play very long hours in poker. And I think you can actually be massaged at the table when playing poker, right?
Absolutely. It's $1 a minute. I get it every time.
Is it?
I played a lot of poker as well,
Yeah, so back to the final thing is our admin, our top levels of the country. So you feel funding's required, obviously, but how do we direct that funding? I mean, you have a process in America where I think you give $50 to every.
Oh, you mean the Education Foundation?
Well, no, you give $50 to every person who joins the ABF that came through a teacher. The teacher gets the $50.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I think.
Have you missed out on a chance there?
I totally missed out on this. What's happening to me? I should start pushing those memberships, I suppose. But I think in our realm, I think it's club-based. I don't know if it's personal, but I think you have to actually have a sanction for a club, and then you get the reward. But I'll have to look into that one for sure. All
right. It's been lovely meeting you today. I love your enthusiasm and energy for the future, which is, what we need in bridge. We need to get this, the attrition rate at the top end is high now.
Yep.
Just look at how many people have been sick here, etc. at this convention. So anyhow, very nice to see. I will be following how your team goes. And look, you know what? I'll make contact through your website as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And honestly, the world needs more people like you to promote this game and to get it out there for people. And I'm passionate for a reason, because it's a great game. So let's go bridge.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.